There are many new opportunities created by digital games to make learning much more effective.
Play is a fundamental unit of activity, so to speak, for learning.
One thing about games is that they can adapt in special ways that sort of meets the learner where they are.
The more technology there is in the world, kids are drawn by technology, and it doesn't make any sense to me to fight that. It seems like let's run with that.
The GLPC has a very ambitious agenda, and it's very multi-sectoral, involving both games developers, educators, classroom teachers, policy makers. So we understand the big picture of what needs to be done. But there are many challenges in doing the work and bringing together these groups that don't normally talk to each other.
The calculus of where monies have been spent historically has changed very dramatically. We've had a 48% drop in 4 years in the revenues of publishers and traditional textbook. That paradigm is shifting, and a big part of that vacuum from a funding perspective and a product and service utilization perspective by learners at K-12, in my view, will be taken up through games and simulations.
Games create these highly immersive situations where you really do step into a problem space. And so in some ways, it's not just about the digital games, but about how do we imagine an education space that's more game-like.
Kids learn through play, from babies onwards. And the older they get, the less play you get in a classroom, and more of a kind of us versus them, subject-to-object relationship. And I found that when my kids that I teach, who I teach, were involved in gameplay, they were very interested in the subject, and they would absorb things as things were happening.
Despite claims on both sides that games have no place in learning or that games somehow should replace all of learning, I think what you'll find is a really healthy ecosystem in the life of a child and a young adult where media become not something to firewall outside of learning and education, but a fundamental part of it.
Again, Sesame Workshop has really set the model for how producers can work with educators and researchers. So the question for the GLPC is, can we make that happen in the games field to really have the games producers and developers learn the language of curriculum of the classroom, and hopefully a 21st century classroom, and at the same time have educators who can understand the games development process to be able to feed in and provide valuable input into that process. So that's just one area that is very challenging, but also very important.